Hello, people. What's going on? So I wanted to hop on real quick here and just talk some summer league. I know that a lot of people aren't always super interested in summer league just because it's sort of empty calories basketball. Um, the kind of general consensus around summer league is that it's mostly for commiserating. If you're within the NBA kind of circle, it's a chance for media members, players, agents, kind of personnel of teams to kind of gather and just talk. It's been a while since we've had a chance to kind of look at some of the incoming rookies. And I'm really impressed by the class so far. It hasn't been too many games, but I think most people would agree that the incoming class looks more impressive than we would have anticipated them looking. They have a higher ceiling than I think people would have anticipated. Uh, what I mean by that is we're looking at guys like Jalen Green, who's been incredibly impressive, Evan Mobley, who's looked really rock solid so far, Cade Cunningham, hasn't really showed up with all the gas and hasn't been the top dog that people thought that he would. But that doesn't really concern me. His game looks really good. He's just not bringing it full force to summer league, which is totally fine. But if you are on the periphery of summer league, you haven't really been you haven't dived in super far. You've just been looking at it from a distance. You've already heard names like that. What I want to do is take a moment to highlight some of the players that aren't being talked about very often. And again, if you're super into summer league, hopefully I make some points that you agree with. Hopefully I highlight some players that you have also been impressed with. But if you are out of the loop on summer league, maybe I'm telling you somebody who we're going to see in the NBA who will surprise you with what they're bringing in their first year. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So something that I think is important to take away from summer league is the fact that a lot of these teams are trying to work somewhat within the schemes that those teams are utilizing throughout the season, right? It's not a direct parallel because most of the players on your team who actually matter to your team aren't in the summer league. But with that caveat, a lot of teams are running systems, running plays, getting actions that they anticipate seeing for their NBA team. So to that point, one of the things that I think is important to look at, but not critical, but important to look at nonetheless, is what are the common stats that attribute to winning basketball in today's NBA, and which teams are kind of at the forefront, leading statistically all the teams in those categories. So that's a lot of rambling to basically say, we know three-pointers are really important. What teams are taking a lot of three-pointers and also making a lot of three-pointers? The team that are leading the charge right now in the summer league, and this is Vegas specific, the team that's leading the summer league is the Boston Celtics. Now, this is attributable to a lot of factors, but the two people that I would like to isolate in talking about this briefly are Peyton Pritchard and Aaron Neesmith. Both second-year players, both had good first seasons. Pritchard was more consistent throughout the entire season. Naismith kind of came on later in the year. For a team like Boston that coming into next season, they're kind of in that same middling pack that my Chicago Bulls are in, for example, where you're a good team, you're a solid team, you have certainly have playoff aspirations, but kind of are you uh, kind of hard capped in the sense that you can only get so far? Meaning you're good, but are you better than the Brooklyn Nets? Certainly not. I think they're probably in a tier of their own. Are you better than the Milwaukee Bucks? How did I forget them? They just won a title. No, you're not better than them, but you're kind of in that next tier that's kind of sniffing around what you could be. So for a team like that who didn't do what the Bulls did and go out and add reinvent your team essentially in free agency, the Boston Celtics are going to be looking for some players like Pritchard, like Neesmith, maybe Romeo Langford, who people have had their fingers crossed on for a long time. You're going to be looking for those players to take a leap, to come to the next level. And the one that I really am interested, who I think could make a large impact, is Aaron Neesmith. He was a great shooting guard coming out of, I believe, Vanderbilt. I can't remember specifically, but I think he battled a little bit of some injury woes at the beginning of the year. But he's been looking really, really good in Summer League. He's been taking and making a lot of 3-pointers at a high clip. And hopefully that translates to the next level. Past Aaron Neesmith, let's stay in kind of the hemisphere of scoring as an important thing to NBA teams. I've been really impressed by Cameron Thomas, the guard out of LSU who got drafted by the Nets. I think he slipped as if you compare him where he was drafted to most people's boards. It was kind of a love-hate relationship. It was kind of an acquired taste with him, where the knock for people who aren't familiar was he scores at an incredibly high clip, but he doesn't facilitate the ball at all. His assist numbers, I believe, were under 2 assists per game, which is pretty low. But he has been showing the capacity to pass more in the summer league games that I've watched of him. But really, that kind of comes with time for a young guard, especially a score first guard. If you can score, if you're a bucket who's coming into the league, the thing that we want to see is, does your scoring translate to the next level? Because we see a lot of guys, to go back to the Boston Celtics for a second, Carson Edwards is a player who is on their team. He lit it up in college. He had that one tournament that was 2 seasons ago, 3 seasons ago, because this is his second year, where he played for Colorado. Am I getting that wrong? But he lit it up in the tournament. And that scoring didn't translate to the next level yet for Carson. But the scoring looks like it's going to translate for Cameron Thomas pretty well. And he's also coming into a situation that he'll be able to, they're going to utilize him in a way that is very conducive to him doing well, because the Nets don't need scoring, right? They also don't need a primary scorer, a secondary scorer. Cameron Thomas is going to be basically the 5th or 6th option for scoring on a very, very good basketball team. So he's going to get a lot of reps during the regular season, because I would assume, because they're probably going to be not going balls to the wall, playing Durant, Harden, Irving, who are all battling injuries, who we all know are going to be fantastic in the playoffs. So Thomas is probably going to get a lot of opportunities during the regular season to learn how to facilitate better, but also score around a team that has a lot of options for him. Just choosing one person in particular, Joe Harris, having Joe Harris as a floor spacer for you to kind of penetrate and get to the basket, or create your own shot in the mid-range or from the post. Having options like him that can actually, they hold defenses accountable so they can't sag, isn't something that Thomas always had at LSU. And I think he's going to have in Brooklyn. And one last thing about Cam Thomas that I think is important to note, something that can be a barometer in kind of jumping up to the next level, the next tier of NBA scorer, especially young players, is the capacity to get to the free throw line, to get those kind of free buckets. James Harden is one who did this, who is known to do this super well. He always gets to the line. But furthermore, as an example, let's go to last playoffs when he's playing injured. He's not able to beat people off the dribble as he is known to do. He's not as explosive battling that injury, but he was still getting to the line in the playoffs at an alarming clip, which is why he was still able to score. Circling back to Cam Thomas, he's averaging the 3rd most free throw attempts per game. And granted, it's only 2 games, so very small sample size, but he's averaging 9 free throw attempts per game. So for a young guard to be seeing that, someone who also can create their own shot, for him to be able to get to the free throw line at the rate that he is, that's really, really impressive to see. Now, his percent isn't super high, but I'm not going to go into it too much, because again, we're talking about very, very few examples to look at here. And then somebody else I want to highlight who I was a huge fan of coming out of college, and I really loved watching him last season. And I'm really looking forward to seeing him improve and build upon himself this upcoming season is Desmond Bane. He played significant minutes for a Grizzlies team that was hungry and competitive and playing in big games, which is always cool to see for a rookie. But this year in this summer league, the thing that really is impressive to see from him is the rate at which he's making and taking 3-point attempts. Just looking at the stats here to translate, he's shooting effectively 70% from the 3-point line. And you're looking at a lot of these guys, I'm filtering through, a lot of these guys are shooting like 75% on like one attempt per game. It's like, oh, nice, very impressive. Desmond Bane is shooting 70%, which puts him in the top 10, it looks like, of people in 3-point percentage. And he's taking 6.5 attempts per game. Again, only 2 games, but man, if this guy can continue to grow this part of his game and stretch the floor, he's a bruiser too. If you were just to look at him real quick, he kind of has a similar like body structure to like a PJ Tucker. So for a guy like that to be able to continue to stretch the floor even further is really going to be helpful for a team that has Ja Morant, who's kind of known for quickly penetrating. If Desmond Bane can continue to improve that part of his game, not only will it make things easier for Ja, but it's going to improve the utility of Desmond as well. Finally, I just want to give shout outs to a couple of players, just naming them that I've found really, really interesting and fun to watch. I have absolutely loved Malachi Flynn so far in the summer league. He's just, his ability to score is so fluid. It never seems like he's forced. He seems like one of the few you can, if you're watching a game, you can tell that he's a pro who this is not his first summer league. He clearly has the NBA chops to succeed in the summer league, and I think he's going to succeed during the season next year as well. And then finally, 2 Rockets guys that I've really enjoyed. Not Jalen Green, who I have overwhelmingly enjoyed watching as a player, but we're focusing on guys who aren't Jalen Greens in this, but relatively close. Alprin Shingoon, like I was tentative just because of we all need to kind of get over this, right? Talking broadly, this idea of like, I don't know, strictly because he's foreign. I would argue that the Turkish professional league is probably a higher level of competition than college basketball, for example. I don't think that's true for like every league, right? Like, I don't think if some prospect like Pokashevsky, I think we were all right to be like, we'll see. But he's 18, Shingoon is, and he was the MVP of the Turkish league. It reminded me, the parallel kind of was with Luka, and I'm not saying that he's Luka. The parallel that I'm drawing is the fact that everybody was like, I don't know if Luka has the chops to compete in the NBA. It's like he's 18, he's been a pro for 5 years, and he was the MVP of a really, really good basketball league. Alprin Shengun is 18, and he was the MVP of the Turkish league. So his floor from that standpoint is already pretty damn high, I would say. But also, if you watch him play, I think he has so many facets to his game offensively that make him, he's certainly going to be staying around the NBA. And also defensively, I've been impressed as well. I thought that he was undersized. He really doesn't look that undersized. His energy is really high. For example, in the game that they played against Cleveland, I thought his defense on Mobley was pretty stellar. He blocked Mobley. He wasn't biting at pump fakes. He was able to stick with him laterally on the way to the rim. And also Alperin's vision, his ability to facilitate the ball out of the pick and roll, where you kind of give him the ball and he has a guard kind of running around him. In this context of summer league, it's mostly been Jalen Green, but you'll get Alperen the ball at the top of the key, and he basically will let Jalen kind of run behind him while he holds the ball in front of himself while he's looking, but he has the ability to I don't know if this will translate and make sense, but he has the ability to like butt bump defenders. Like Jalen will cut behind him and his defender will be trailing him, and Alperen will like stick his butt out and like lower his body to like give Jalen some space to like have a full head of steam going towards the rim with no defender on him. It's really impressive, and I think it's going to translate really well to the NBA. That doesn't mean that the Rockets are going to be good. They're going to be awful, but I really like some of the young players they have. And quickly, because I talked about him longer than I wanted to, was Josh Christopher. I had some reservations that were basically not really based on anything. It was just hypothetical doubts where Christopher is good friends with Jalen Green. They played on the same AAU team or the same high school team together, or at least they're good friends. I can't remember the specific context, but it's kind of this concept of is it more beneficial or detracting for Jalen Green to have a buddy on his first team? And to delve into that just a little bit more, it's kind of on two sides of the coin. Let's take the positives first because that's a good way to be. Um, you have somebody who you know, it makes the experience more comfortable. You're coming into a situation where a lot of pressure is being put on you. You're put into a totally new system. It's nice to have a friend there to kind of give you some balance and perspective and just some comfort, right? On the negative side of the coin, potentially, is the idea that you want Jalen to buy into your system. You want him to get to know his teammates, build bonds, all of those things, right? So potentially it could detract from his development and his ability to help the Rockets get better and grow as a team if he's spending all of his time hanging out with a buddy. I have since put that to rest for the most part. Could it still be a factor? Sure. But like, honestly, whatever. But Josh Christopher, as a player in and of himself, outside of the context of Jalen Green, has been really impressive. I think that he has really, really solid handles, which I didn't watch much of his game in college. I believe he went to Arizona State. I didn't watch much of him there. I caught maybe a game or two. But I was really impressed by his ability to handle the ball. He seems to really be under control. He doesn't work himself into situations where he's getting tripled or doubled because he is not looking up. And also, his energy has been really high, and his shooting mid range, his ability to hit a couple dribble moves and create space for himself in the mid range has been really, really impressive as well. All right, so I am going to go ahead and call it here because if I don't, I will talk forever and ever about a lot of these players that I've been impressed with or have reservations on. But if you haven't, I would recommend catching a summer league game. Just watching it on TV, it's really nice to just be back into the flow of basketball, not back into the flow because we were just in basketball, but I think it's one of those things that we shouldn't take for granted because in the near future, we're going to have a pretty substantial, for NBA fans, a pretty substantial gap without basketball. So I am cherishing this time we have to watch very close to NBA level talent and get to evaluate some of these players because we're going to have a little bit of a lull once the Vegas Summer League cuts. So thank you guys for checking out the video. I appreciate it. Please, if you have any constructive criticism or thoughts about how I can improve this, what other videos I can produce going forward, it's much appreciated. And I'll catch you guys next time.